All right. So ready to go?
Yep.
All
So
right.
this is
So
day 7, number 1.
Yes.
okay. I was I was traveling. So the first beep happened when I was sitting waiting for my flight. And I was trying to put the beeper in my pocket. Like I was struggling to get it in my pocket. And when I looked up, the woman that was sitting across from me was looking at the beeper. And I said in my head, in internal monologue, it's for a psychology experiment, because I had an unsymbolized thought about how she might be suspicious of this weird device at an airport. And I was also struggling to get it in my pocket because my wallet was there, and I was focused on working through that as well at the same time.
So what of that is in your experience at the moment of the beep?
The words, and then me struggling to get it in my pocket. So I had like a feeling, like a unsymbolized feeling that like her facial expression was like confusing, like what was the thing that I was like putting in my pocket. And then I said it's for a psychology experiment in my brain.
And was the noticing her expression and the unsymbolized thinking about that, is that before the beep?
Yeah.
So at the moment of the beep, there is the struggle to put it in my pocket and it's for a psychology experiment internal monologue.
Correct.
And anything more to be said about the internal monologue? What's that?
It wasn't anything unusual. It was probably 50% compared to focusing on trying to like finagle the thing in my pocket. I was like aware that my wallet was in there too. And I was like trying to work around it.
And is that part of the struggling? Like I'm struggling against my wallet? It's not like I'm thinking I've got my wallet in there.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like the angle to get it in along over like the top of the wallet so it would like fit in. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was like I was conscious of that happening as well as saying those words.
And I'm understanding that conscious of that as being not a cognitive, thinky kind of a thing, but a active.
Yeah, like a physical act.
Motor act kind
of
deal. Okay. So the chances are fairly good in this beep that you triggered the beep. If in the putting of it into your pocket, you may have bumped the wheel, the thumb wheel that's on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the downsides of this beeper design is that if you jiggle that wheel, you can make the beeper think that you just turned it off and back on again, and it comes on with a beep.
Okay, good to know. I had it for a pretty long time before that happened, so I'm not sure. It could have been that.
Yeah, I don't know for sure either, obviously, but
yeah.
So I would say we're good with that. We should move on to beep number 2.
Me too. Number 2.
All right. So I was on the plane and we had taken off and we were in the air for a little bit. And I was in like a small plane, like a puddle jumper plane. And I was all the way in the back, so you could like feel the turbulence a lot. And the plane was shaking more than usual. And I was noticing everyone looking around. This isn't at the moment of the beep. This is leading up to it. I was noticing everyone looking around, and I could feel my adrenaline. And I said in internal monologue when it beeped, this is out of your control, as in, like, if something was going to happen, there wasn't anything I could do anyway. So it was like to calm myself down, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't necessarily like nervous I was going to die, but like I definitely like felt the adrenaline.
Mm-hmm. And what of all that, what exactly is caught in flight by the beep?
Me saying, this is out of your control, talking to myself.
Mm-hmm. And then noticing the other passengers, is that still going on for you?
No, at this moment I was like looking out the window, like at like the wing, but I wasn't like focused on anything about that aspect of it. That's just where my eyes were directed.
Okay. And how about the adrenaline? Is that present at the beep?
Yeah, that's present, and that's just like my heart was racing a little bit faster, just like a little more like awake and aware.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm feeling this adrenaline, which I'm understanding to be like in the anxiety realm or something. I'm a little nervous about this. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, this is out of your control.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to talk you into the adrenaline part, because you could totally be calming your anxiety with your inner voice, and really you're not even feeling it anymore. So I don't want to assume that's there. I feel like I may have led you in that direction.
Oh no, it was there. I wrote it in my thing that I was feeling the adrenaline going, and then I said in internal monologue, this is out of my control.
Okay. And does it make sense to say that one of those aspects of my experience is more prominent? Or equal?
I don't think it's fair to say that either was more prominent.
Okay. So this is out of your control. I'm understanding that to be an internal monologue thing, your voice.
Yeah.
Spoken.
Yeah, it was similar to the first beat.
Okay. Any particular tone or inflection or accent?
No, nothing notable.
Okay.
This is out of your control. Just like there's nothing I can do anyway, so just sit here and wait it out.
It's very healthy coping. Good job. And then the adrenaline. How exactly do you experience that?
I think we mentioned this in the a prior beep. It's like a chest feeling. The other one was anger, where we were talking about where like I felt like I could like release it if I punched something, but this was just I just like felt tightness in my chest, like an energy still. I feel like I feel all my emotions in my chest. Is that normal?
I think it is pretty common.
I guess that's what I call a broken heart.
Maybe, right? Maybe some people actually apprehend it as like this is a heart organ thing, or maybe some people mean chest. I'm guessing there's a real diversity of meanings there, and we all just nod and say, yeah, we know what that is when you feel it in your heart. But so for you, this is a chesty sensation. Yeah,
and like it's just like I was more like alert. Like it's just like, I mean, my nervous system was in high gear, I guess. I don't know.
So I've heard sort of three different versions of this. The heart is beating faster. It's in my chest, but not particularly about my heart beating. And I'm alert. I'm sort of all over alert. Is that because this is a diffuse feeling and I'm not really sure, or because those are three clear aspects?
I think that the heart beating faster is just like it's obviously a response to like this, to a fight or flight response. And that's probably a full body experience, but it's like it's more diffuse for the anxiety portion of it. But I could also like notice that my heart was like palpitating. But I think they're two separate things.
I can notice, and I was noticing at the moment of the beep, are not necessarily the same thing. So the question is, at the moment of the beep, am I feeling my heart? So I'm accepting that the adrenaline probably was causing your heart to beat fast, and as a fact of the universe, your heart rate had gone up or whatever. But the question is whether that's in your experience at the moment of the beep, or whether that's a sort of a substrate.
So I was like noticing in my experience something going on in my chest. I don't know if I could differentiate between it being just my heartbeat at the time, or if it was just like a diffuse feeling in the chest. I don't know if I remember at this moment.
Okay.
To like accurately account for this.
Okay. And then the alertness. I
guess that wasn't in the footlights of my consciousness at the moment. Like that, I was alert. That was probably that's a retrospect thing. Okay. Now that I think back at it.
So at the moment of the beep, I'm saying to myself, this is out of your control, and I am feeling something in my chest, and I'm not exactly, I can't really say at this moment exactly what that is, but in the anxiety realm.
Yeah. Like I wasn't like the most scared I've ever been in my life, but everyone was like looking around, so it stimulated some type of fight or flight response.
And I guess I still want to understand, is this like a bodily feeling? Like this is an emotional experience, like an anxiety or worry or whatever we want to call it, but it has some emotional significance and I experience it in my body. Or is this a bodily sensation? And then after the beep, I can tell you, oh, that must be an anxiety thing.
I was aware of what was going on at the moment, like with my chest. Like that was part of my experience at that time. But like I said, I can't differentiate from memory if it was like a diffuse feeling or if it was palpitations that I was feeling.
So I think I'm with you on that. I guess what I'm trying to understand is whether this is an emotional kind of thing. Before the footlights of consciousness, this is an emotion and it's a bodily one. Or this is just, these are sensations. And if I have to slap a label on them, I think they're anxiety. Does that make sense?
I'm slapping a label onto it because I generally speaking, I don't think about my emotions like in the present. So if I get beeped, I wouldn't be like thinking about the emotions of the situation, but I was feeling the emotions. I don't know. I'm probably way off from answering your question. But
okay, no, that's helpful. So I'm not particularly trying to ask, like, are you thinking about the emotion? Are you having, I don't mean like, is Ryan in some kind of meta way noticing that he's nervous?
Mm-hmm.
I do want to know if you're feeling nervous.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it.
Okay. So this is an emotional thing, and it's the way it presents itself to me as a sensation in my body, but that sensation is anxiety, adrenaline, worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
And then those words came out to stop those emotions.
Mm-hmm. And is the stopping present to you, or is that not there yet? Or
no, it wasn't.
Okay.
Not yet, at least.
Then I'm good.
It was pretty aggressive shaking, in case you were wondering. It was like up and down.
So I've got one more question about the speaking. We have used words like initiation or whatever, and you asked last time whether there were things that we didn't understand about it, and I would say that is one of those. So, how does this inner speaking have anything? Does it tell us anything about the initiation?
So this one is me initiating it. Like it's self-talk. I'm talking to myself specifically, where that's initiating it. And then there's other times where I'm not necessarily talking to myself, and it comes out more of like a daydream where like I'm not trying to say these things. It's just like a thought that infiltrates that like will distract me from a situation.
And so the first beep today, it's for a psychology experiment. How does this fit in this initiation?
That one is similar. The 1 and 2 were similar. There's going to be one in 3 that is going to be more of it just like coming in, and you'll see why, because it's pretty fascinating.
So the first one isn't spoken to yourself, really. You're in your imagination speaking to the woman across the way.
Yeah, but I had like an unsymbolized thought before that whole thing, and then like I said those words in like anticipation to like those feelings.
Right.
Just like I said those words anticipation to these feelings. It's more of like I was feeling uncomfortable, and the self-talk helped me. I don't know. We're going to have to do more beeps, I think.
Well, this is exactly how these things happen. So it seems like the initiation doesn't necessarily have to do with self-directedness. It's something related to that, but not directly about that.
Correct. It's
the first beep today is initiated, but not self-directed. It's It's
starting.
self-referential. You're talking about something that you're doing,
I'm
but the aim of it is at the woman.
I'm starting to second guess my memory now. If the first beep I tried to say it, because the second one, like I went out of my way to like say it, where I don't know if I did for the first one. So we're gonna have to put a bracket around that first one because the more I think about it, I don't think I forced myself to say it.
Okay.
And that's what initiated means. So you really mean like the dictionary definition, like I'm
Self.
driving these words purposefully. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But not just driving it, but purposefully driving it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You were driving the words on the first one too.
Let me read it over again to put me back in the moment. Yeah, the second one I know for sure, but the first one now I'm starting to second guess it a little bit.
So the good news is that the way the process works is we're going to say, well, we just don't know about it. We are trying to fill in the blanks about something, and the first task of that is to identify that there are blanks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a question mark about what this self initiation or what the initiation is, and we don't have an answer yet, but we're refining the question, and sooner or later we'll get the question adequately refined, and when we do that, we'll probably know what the answer is. But the good news about it is that we don't have to fret too much about it. The fact that we weren't ready to answer that question on the first beep, well, then maybe we'll find it out of the next beep or tomorrow or whenever. And so I'd say we ought to go on to beep number 3.
All right. I've been thinking about the two, trying to like figure out how to explain the difference, because I know to myself just for doing this that there's a difference between those two inner speeches. But I've been like thinking about in the moment, like when they're happening, and I'm trying to try to figure that out myself, just to better help explain it.
Well, that's exactly how the procedure is supposed to work. So that's good. And we're not trying to answer it really as a sort of a general thing until after we understand it in the specific. This is the way it was at this moment. It wasn't this way at that moment. It was this way at this moment. It wasn't this way at that moment. Then we'll have a pretty good understanding, I think, of what that is that we're talking about.
Because the reason why I think about this so much is because the one that's not like initiated myself, that just like happens, is what is distracting to me when I'm trying to focus on things. Like if I'm trying to read and then just like other things are being said in my head while I'm reading, that pulls me away from what I'm trying to focus on, and that's the frustrating part. Where the other one, I'm initiating it myself. I don't know if that helps at all, but
that might help. So it's
all right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So this, I don't know.
Let's see.
You've probably had this for beat number 3. You've probably had something similar. I don't know, but I was actually asleep when the beep went off, and I was dreaming. Have you ever had that? Yeah. Damn.
Well, we have occasionally. We're not sleep study people, but
I know.
But if it's clear to you what the experience was, we might as well go for it.
Yeah, I know exactly I wrote it down immediately so I didn't forget it. Okay. So I was asleep and then woke up to the beeper during a dream. I was involved in is there a doctor on board situation where like someone was having a heart attack, and I saw myself in third person. So from my seat that I was sitting in, I was in the aisle seat, and I had a vantage point down just like towards the front of the plane. And what I was seeing was out of that vantage point of where I was sitting. And I saw myself down further in the middle of the plane on one knee, pointing back to the seat that I was sitting in. And I said, it's in the second biggest pocket. Oops, I mean the second smallest pocket, in reference to my stethoscope. And then it beeped, and then I woke up from the beep.
So there was a correction there. Was that a correction into your dreams?
In my dream.
So the quote, say again what the quote was. It's in the second.
It's in the second biggest pocket. Oops, I mean the second smallest pocket. Which was accurate too. It's like I caught myself in my dream being wrong.
That's cool.
And what about the word books? Is that?
I never said anything about. I said oops. OOPS.
Oops. So the quote is, it's in the second biggest pocket. Oops, I mean the second smallest pocket.
Correct. In reference to pointing someone to get my stethoscope.
Huh. And so you see yourself, and
Yes.
you hear yourself,
Yes.
and this view is from the seat where you are currently asleep, but the Ryan in the dream is of some number of rows ahead of you.
Yes. And I don't necessarily see my face, and the voice doesn't come from the person down at the end. It comes from the vantage points that I was seeing the thing happen from.
So the voice is from in the seat,
Yes.
not on the knee.
But I knew the person on the knee was saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes your dreams are not reality.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes your experience in general is not reality.
Yeah.
So it's. So I see the Ryan on his knee speaking, and I hear Ryan in the seat speaking, but he's speaking what Ryan on his knee is saying.
Correct.
Okay.
It's almost like I was in both places at once.
And this is a hearing thing? Like I don't experience myself as the speaker, I'm hearing the words?
No, I'm experiencing myself as the speaker saying it. But from me sitting in the seat, not from supposedly me down at the end of the aisle.
And so speaking in the same-ish way as beeps 1 and 2, or is it somehow different from those?
It's a little bit more like rushed and urgent.
Okay, but the phenomenon's really the same, but my words are coming out faster, is that?
It's a dream, so it was very, very vivid.
Okay. But I'm speaking these. Ryan in the seat is speaking these, but they're the words of Ryan on the knee.
Correct.
Okay.
And you see Ryan on his knee. Does that mean his back is basically to you, but he's twisted around, pointing back?
So say like I didn't see the person that was having the heart attack. I just vaguely saw a person on their knee, but I knew it was me. And I was like facing one of the seats, so like the side of my body was towards the vantage point.
The right side or the left side?
I was seeing the left side.
So you're pointing with your left arm back?
Yes, yeah, it's like that. On the left knee, pointing with the left arm.
Okay. And is this scene clear? You see this scene clearly?
Yeah, it was very clear. Yeah, I didn't really see my face or anything.
And is that because your face was out of the frame, so to speak, or just because you didn't articulate the face?
I think that wasn't what like my eyes were directed to. It was more so that being on the knee that like my eyes were directed towards.
Okay.
And how about, do you see the rest of the plane? And
I see the seats leading up to it, like the rows up to it.
mm-hmm. Any people?
I knew that there were people in there, but I didn't look, I didn't gaze over there during the dream, so I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So does this beep tell us anything about the concept that we were talking a little bit ago about initiation? There's inner speech going on.
I just don't think it's fair to compare because it's a dream. I genuinely don't. It's a completely different experience.
Okay,
I
that's
don't
fine.
know.
That's how you find out what's in the experience system. Find out what's not in the experience.
Hmm.
So what we just found is that it is possible to have inner speech that is clear, that is not initiated, and is not even in the realm of initiation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was coming from my vantage point. So like obviously, I don't know. I can't break down the dreams. That's
Okay,
not my job.
that's fine. All right, then I'm good.
Ours either. Yep, me
I
too.
guess Sigmund Freud.
Um,
Before um, this is I said this is gonna seem insanely coincidental, but it beeped like exactly when the wheels touched down. Um, and I was looking at the flap of the wing, because like when the planes like land, like the flaps come up, and I was looking at that, and then noticeably felt the thud. There's no visual or internal monologue, just assessing the smoothness of the landing. Like, um, I wasn't, I don't know. Like I was like feeling the landing. I was looking at the wing, like watching the whole process unfold, but I wasn't like thinking about anything like directly.
Okay. So when you say assessing the landing, do you mean that as a kind of cognitive analytical thing or I'm taking in these sensations? I'm looking at the flap, I'm feeling the thud, and all of that is smooth.
What do you mean by like an analytic? Like, can you give me an example of what it would be like if it was analytically, if I was analytically
Well,
assessing it?
I guess what I'm trying to understand is if there is a before the footlights of consciousness thought, like there is a cognition here about this is a smooth landing, or I'm just taking in the smooth landing. I don't have to have a thought about it. It's implied in the thud and the flaps.
Well, it wasn't really a smooth landing. Like I said, I felt the thud. It smacked down. So I wasn't like, um, it wasn't. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna see how good this landing is. I was just like going with the motions and feeling it. I guess
Okay.
that one was a bad explanation.
Well, I think it gets us a little closer. I think you've been saying this isn't really a thinky thing. This isn't like an unsymbolized thought
Mm-mm.
about the landing. Okay.
No. Yeah, the unsymbolized thoughts would have like more of like a specific meaning behind what I was like experiencing, but I wasn't.
Sure. Okay. So I'm looking at the flap and I feel the thud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And about the flap, are you drawn to anything in particular, or I'm just watching it flap?
Before the beep, there was like a bunch of like gears in there, and I was like looking at that, and that was more of like an analytical thing. But like at the moment of the beep, it was more of like the thud of it.
Okay.
The
I'm
thud was
more
more
interested in
present.
the thud at the
Yeah,
moment of the beep.
yeah.
And does that mean the flap is really totally gone, or that's still present to me?
I don't know. Like I
I
said,
can't say.
yeah, I was looking at it, and I know that just because I'm looking at it doesn't mean it's in. But I don't know. I think it was just more of everything combined that like when you go to land a plane, you just. I was like aware that they were landing the plane, and that's kind of like what I was just like feeling happen. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so I want to understand that. So sometimes it sounds like this is kind of a specific experience, like there's the flap and there's the thud. Those sound like I've sort of picked out two aspects of the landing.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes it sounds like this is a whole landing thing. I am engaged in the landing and taking it in, and that's seems like a more general. Is one of those more accurate?
The latter, because the reason before the beep, I looked out. So the person that I was sitting next to, didn't have their window open, so I looked across the aisle and looked out. Oh wait, no, never mind. Sorry, they did have the window open, but we were coming down really fast, and I like thought about how fast we were coming down, and then at that point I was like assessing the landing, I guess. I don't know, but there's no words or visuals, just like the whole process of the plane landing.
And assessing is like a physical thing?
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, I don't care. I don't want it.
I know.
I'm trying to. That word sounds so analytical to me, and I guess I'm just hung on that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right words to describe it. So it was the whole process that like I was aware of, but the thud is what I was like. I is what was on my mind when the thing beeped. It was like the thud, the feeling of the thud, but I knew that the whole thing encapsulated landing the plane.
Uh-huh. So I'm being carried within the landing. I'm engaged in the landing, taking it in.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment of the beep, I'm mostly into the thud. Is that?
Yes.
Right.
I was enduring the process. I was feeling the landing. I don't know.
I like that, enduring the process of landing. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thud, do you mean thud as like an auditory thing? Like I hear a thud or I feel a thud or both?
Like a sudden jolt. It was a hard landing.
Okay. So it's I both hear it and I feel the jolt.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that I'm calling thud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that isn't how I understood it. So is this a hearing thing or a bodily thing or both?
Oh, it's a bodily thing. The thud, sorry. Thud is a sound word.
Okay.
It's both. It's both. I wasn't thinking about it at the moment, but it obviously made a noise.
So it can make a noise, but the question is whether you hear the noise.
Well, I heard. Yeah, I heard the noise. Like I said, it was the whole process of landing, but the thud is like the thing that was on my mind. And now I don't know if I was thinking about the sound, but I was definitely feeling the feeling of the thud.
So this is a jolt.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't.
Maybe I was hearing and maybe I wasn't. Clearly, the sound of the wheels hitting the pavement and whatever is in my ears. That's there. Whether I'm paying attention to that or whether I'm into the jolt of it is up in the air, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, it was more so into the jolt.
Okay.
I just don't know if I would have thought about writing down if I heard the feeling of landing. That's my issue, is that it very well could have happened, but I don't remember.
Okay.
It would be weird if I didn't hear it, though. That's why I'm confused.
And so I'm accepting that the jolt comes from the landing. Jolt/thud comes from the landing. But I haven't yet figured out whether I am experiencing the landing or I'm experiencing the jolt. The landing being sort of a bigger process and the jolt being a right now process. Well, maybe that's an impossible question to answer. It's just different perspectives on it.
Like I keep wanting to say that it was the whole process of landing and that the jolt was part of that experience, and seeing the wing flap was part of the experience too.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fine. I think sometimes, I mean, we try to get to the edge of possible, and maybe that's where we are now, and that's good for me.
And I think this particular one has several different layers of perspective. It is the jolt of landing. It's not some random jolt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was anticipating before the beep. I was anticipating the wheels touching down. So like I knew it was going to happen, but like when it beeped, I was like actually feeling the thing happen. It happened.
Got it.
All right. Well, I think I'm good. Number 5.
So because of COVID, my plane had to go to Chicago first and then down to Charlotte, which made no sense. But Chicago airport's huge, and I had like 30 minutes to get off the plane and then to my next flight. And I was walking towards the terminal of my next flight. Is that the word terminal? The gate, sorry. And I said K20 in my head and then saw K20 vaguely because that was the gate I needed to go to. So I was walking, rushing, and I said the word K20 and then vaguely saw K20 at the same time.
And so at the moment of this beep, is this primarily a speaking experience or a hearing experience or a seeing experience?
It's primarily, they're one and the same, I think. 50-50 seeing, saying.
Okay. And let's start with the seeing then. What exactly do you see?
It's not like a well-differentiated K20 specifically, but it was kind of like when I was describing how I study and like I remember that like I know that I'm looking at my notes, but it's not like a well-differentiated thing. It was similar to that where it was a visual experience, but it wasn't well-differentiated yet. I still knew what it was. I still knew it was the K20 on my ticket that I saw.
So you're not seeing the K20 of the gate, you're seeing the K20 of the ink on the ticket.
Yep, and the K20 was like in the upper right-hand corner of the ticket, and like I had like the spatial awareness aspect with it too, just like when I was saying when I remember the notes.
So I'm seeing my ticket in some kind of an inchoate or schematic-y kind of a way. And I see in the upper right-hand corner of it
what represents K20.
What has to have been K20, even though I don't see the letter K and I don't see the letter 20, but I see the space where K20 is, and I recognize it to be K20.
Perfect.
So I am looking at K20 on my ticket, and I am seeing an indistinguishable ticket with an indistinguishable K20 on it.
Correct.
But this is clearly a seeing experience. This is not a, I know as a fact that my ticket has K20.
No. It's visual. It's definitely present in my experience that like I'm searching for it visually where it is.
And present in my experience as a seeing as opposed to as a fact-checking thing.
Correct. I was trying to remember the gate, and then I had to use my visual memory to remember what it was, and then I repeated it to myself.
Okay. So then I am also saying K20.
Yep, that one was forced for sure because I was saying it to reinforce the visual.
And does forced and initiated mean the same thing?
Yes. Yes. When I say forced and I say initiated, I mean the same thing.
So what forced and initiated means in this situation is I am purposefully saying to myself, as a sort of an instruction to myself or something like this, I am by explicit design uttering these words for my own benefit.
Mm-hmm. Like, and then like after the beep, I like kept saying K20 like every 2 minutes, just like so I didn't forget. And I didn't have the visuals after that, if that helps.
You did or did not?
Did not. So I used like the visual memory to remember what it was. And then once I knew what it was, I was just saying K20.
And is the speaking K20, is that a clearly apprehended thing?
Yeah, but it's Wait, the moment of the beep or the after?
At the moment of the beep.
Yeah, it was a clear sentence. K20, or not sentence, but it was clearly being said by me.
Okay. In your natural voice?
Yeah.
So this is not unlike the visual experience, which was of K20 but sort of inchoate. This is a explicitly spoken,
Yeah.
clearly stated K20.
Like I said, I've been like trying to be aware of the inner speech and differentiating it. And like sometimes, or like when I am initiating it, it will be like a full sentence. But sometimes when I'm not initiating it, it doesn't need to be a full sentence. But I know that like I could say just like a few words, but I know it's like a full sentence. I know the full sentence meaning.
But that's even while it's initiated as well. So there's no full sentence here, and yet it's initiated.
Well, I guess this was a bad example for that. But if like I'm saying like for the second beep where I said this is out of your control, I said every single one of those words where like if that's something that like if I'm daydreaming and it just like my mind's wandering, I could just say out control and
Right.
like it's a sentence to me.
Right. I think I understand that. But what I was saying out loud was you had said, well, if it's self-initiated, it's a full sentence. But that's, I don't think, really true, because you could have said as a full sentence, my ticket says K20 or my gate is K20 or whatever, which you didn't.
True. That's true.
So there it is. The full sentenciness is not a constitutive factor of the initiation phenomenon.
Correct. But when I said K22, that's all I wanted to say. Like I didn't. It didn't have like a broader meaning to it. Like if I said,
right.
Just
so there's nothing left out, but it's not a full sentence. So
Right.
Correct. Like my mind's not filling in any blanks where the other one it is filling in the blanks without having to say it.
Right. Got
it. And that's a newer like I've noticed that more recently, the more that I've been doing this and thinking about it.
We'll maybe we'll see some beeps where we have non-initiated inner speech, and
it's probably happened, but I never knew how to like notice it or point it out. So it's likely to have happened before, and I just interpreted it as a full sentence. So I told you guys the full sentence instead of explaining to you that it was like choppy and the rest I just filled in the blanks. I don't know.
Huh?
Well, that's why we do this more than once.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Number 6.
Number 6.
I only have 5. Do you want me to be doing 6? Haven't I always been doing 5? Because last time you asked me if I had a 6.
We usually do 6, but I mean it's not a major loss to do 5. But if you can get 6, we usually have time to talk about 6.
Huh. Okay, yeah, I only have 5. Next time I'll do 6.
There's nothing magic about 6 except that it usually takes us about an hour to talk about 6.
Right.
We've done like 4 that took an hour and 20 minutes once, but I think we're getting...
sometimes at the beginning it can be, 70 minutes to get through 3 or something. Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we do this again?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's helping. I talked to Alec about this,
I mentioned it to him briefly.
Potentially doing a documentary for like my whole experience of writing the article, making the video, coming in contact with you, and then finding this field of science that is drastically underappreciated. And I feel like it's a good way to get noticed for what you've been doing for the last 40 years.
So I'm totally in favor of that. I would say I'd be happy to participate, assist, whatever in that.
Okay. Because obviously I wouldn't want to make something that you didn't want to be a part of or be in. It wouldn't be anytime soon either. Obviously, I want to keep doing this and finish this and see how the whole process. But I do think it's an interesting story of what happened to me and stuff. So.
Mhm.
So I do think it's an interesting story, and Alec and I have talked, not in the too far distant past, about the desirability of making some kind of a documentary.
Mhm.
We haven't gotten any farther down the road, except it would be interesting to do that.
Mhm.
So if you're interested in doing it, that's great as far as we're concerned.
Because like almost every single person that I've told about you guys and like what you do, it's a really fascinating thing, and it's not like voodoo science. Like this is reproducible science where you could do it and see results and see trends and stuff. So like obviously like you said, scientists don't like when it's not like quantifiable with numbers and stuff, but you obviously have proven that you could see the same results with different people and stuff through your experience, correct?
I think that's true.
Mhm.
And I would also say that you said a little bit ago something like, well, I wouldn't want to tell a story that wasn't exactly your story or your way or something like that. And I think you got to if you're making a documentary, you got to tell the documentary your way. And I'm happy to participate in that. I'm guessing Alec is as well.
Mhm.
But and if you were to tell a story that sounded wrong or bad or whatever from my point of view, then I would probably have to take some forum to say, well, that's what he said, but I didn't see it that way or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what I'm saying is you're a free agent as far as this is concerned, and I'm happy to help you be as free an agent as you can be.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I would, if I did it, I would want you in it explaining everything because it's what you've been doing, and they would be a part of explaining that.
And I'm happy to do that. And I have been in situations where people have taken the words that I've said out of context and made things that don't correspond with what I think, and I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I would be hoping that you would say something obviously that I would agree with, but if it
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't
work
think.
out, then I would have whatever forum that I could find to say, well, it's not what I saw happen.
Well, obviously, I would want you to be an active part in it and watch it and see how it unfolds and tell me if things are inaccurate or accurate and stuff like that. I don't want to make something that's not correct.
All right, good.
Good.
You are my best interest when I'm doing this. Like, yeah, it's for the science, It's not for me.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and I also told Alex about how like this has helped me like declutter my thoughts a little bit. Like I can categorize them instead of just like having a whole bunch of things going on. I'm more aware of identifying, I guess, the thoughts. So it kind of helps declutter, and I could be a little bit more focused in situations. I don't know if anyone has ever told you that, but
Yeah, I would say that's fairly common. Different people have different ways of being, and
Mm-hmm.
so by decluttering, what exactly do you mean by decluttering?
like before I did this, just like I thought that everything that was happening was all that's just how thinking is. I didn't, but now like I realize that there's different things that I use for different situations. Like I said, like if I'm trying to remember something or do something for school, it's usually like a visual spatial thing. So like if I want to study something, I know that if I use visual and spatial, that I will remember it better just from doing this. I've noticed that trend. That makes sense.
That's cool.
All right. Well, I would say we should do this a few more times and see whether those trends continue.
All right.
Great. All right, Ryan, I'll reach out to you about the next date.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All righty. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Sounds good to me.
Have a good one.
Thank you. See you later.